Welcome, everybody. It's my privilege to be with you here down to the Financial Four book launch, the global book launch from Igniting Souls Publishing Agency with our special guest, author Mark Aho. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. What a privilege to be here today.
Well, we're excited for the opportunity to spend time with you to learn more about your new book, The Financial Four. I think it's especially telling as we look at the process of entering into the week of the Final Four, or the road to the Final Four in college basketball, that everybody's thinking about navigating through the sports to determine who the champion is. Yet your book is about four very specific questions that are financially related and go deeper than that. So I would like to just take a few minutes to ask you to maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the idea behind this book and why you chose to write about the Financial Four.
Sure. I've been doing this a long time, and I've interviewed or have talked to many, many people over the years about financial planning. And some years back, and I think a lot of times when we start to focus on something, you have to go and hibernate someplace and think it through thoroughly. And I did that. And I kept coming to the fact that almost with all relationships that I've worked with over the years, or some of the relationships that I've either started with or ended with, or something in between, we always come to four basic questions that everybody has. And I know that these things are based a little bit more on financial, and they're also based on something that I call a family steward. But the four questions, if you'd like, I can start with that and go down that road. But just about everybody that I know of that comes in here to talk to us, they have there's these four things that we need to work with them on. The first thing is, and it runs in a logical order, and it has to start and go through this order, and you'll see as I talk about it. But the first question everybody has is they want to know if they're going to be all right. So let's frame in the book. I do give you a case study of somebody, John and Sandy Gray, and we were sort of build their case. But everybody wants to know, are we going to be all right? Let's just say you're 55 years old, or you're 40 years old, or you're 30 years old, or whenever you really start thinking about this. You want to know, first of all, if I'm going to do some planning or looking toward the future, and let's say you are 45, and let's say you think, well, I'm not going to be able to do this forever. I want to know if I'm going to be all right when I do someday want to retire. So that's the first question. So, we have to start building around, well, are you going to be all right? And so when we start doing a discovery meeting and we start collecting data, that takes us into another little direction that, first of all, we have to understand what your core values are. And, a lot of times in a meeting, or somebody will say, well, gee, I think we have some things that, and some have thought about it and some I haven't. And for us to start building this plan and moving forward, we have to understand what their core values are, because it doesn't make much sense to build a plan to go direction over here when you actually are, so that's where it starts, So the first question is, will I be all right? Once we get through that side of the process, the second logical question, and then I'll just say these questions, then you can dive deeper into them if you'd like, is, can we live the life we want to live? Now, you can just think of somebody and say, well, we'll make sure we're all right. I want to make sure I can pay my bills. My house is okay. I can pay the heat. I can pay the air conditioning. I can pay my taxes. I want to be all right. Then, well, can we live the life we want to live? And so then that brings us into, stage two of this in our planning to say, well, are there enough resources that we are projecting? And by the way, we do need to create a plan, and that plan is probability based, and it's based on facts that we have, and then it'll take us, from those facts, that what do we have to add to this so that we can be all right and we can live the life we want to live. The third question is always, can we help others? And this is going to come back to the family steward, where they're saying, well, all of a sudden, we're all right. We're living the life we want to live. And all of a sudden we have kids, we have family, and, can we help them if we need to help them? And then the last question is getting toward the end of things. And it's, did we do enough? Did we give enough? Did we live enough? I had a client some time back when I was going through this process with them. Said, man, she said, you know what? Her uncle had just been on his deathbed, and he whispered in her ear, I should have done more. And within a week or two later, after that, he passed away. Now, I think when we do our planning for our clients, and we're doing a lifetime plan for them, we got to get through all these stages. And right. So it's my sincere wish that for anybody I work with or my team works with, that when they get to the end and they answer that question, they can say, we're set. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go see the Lord. I did enough. I gave enough. I did my mission. If we can help people do that get to that point in their life, I'm telling you, it's, I know I will feel that when I get there, I'll say, I did enough.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great run through of those 4 important questions that people often set aside till later. I'll get to it eventually. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a term, the family steward, and I noticed in the dedication of your book, you dedicate it to your parents and your wife Julie's parents. You identified that you said, I learned how to be a family steward from them. These 4 people mean the world to me, and I love them dearly. Not only do I love that dedication, but I think the word steward is often set aside or maybe not commonly used. So could you share with us what you mean by and how you define a family steward?
Sure. I'll say a few things about, my parents and my wife's parents. I started my life in what was called a Goodwill Farm. It was a orphanage that I was left in. But you know what? The Lord is so good. I was adopted out of that facility as an infant, and aging myself. I was born in 1956. So back in those days, it was a little different about adopting kids. And, my parents that raised me, they had one daughter who I love dearly, and she's 4 years older than me. But, they gave me a life, and they gave me a life of, my dad worked in a mine, and my mom, they were also entrepreneurs to some degree. They had some, I call them mom and pop cabins, and they were always, they showed me, how to be an entrepreneur. They showed me that there was, that optimism is the only realism. And, speaking of my dad, this was his version of saving money. He worked at the mine. He got a paycheck every week. The way he saved his money is he stacked the paychecks up and didn't cash them in. He considered that saving money. I wasn't spending it. And so, but they were so supportive of my future. And so I look at them as being a family steward of teaching me that for my kids and for my grandkids and for everybody in my life. And a family steward, and my wife's folks are Pinky and Merle. They're just great people. I just love them dearly. And they are just truly, truly family stewards. I mean, they're, a family steward will spend less than they make. And it's not only for them. They spend less than of their income, and they're saving it, but they're not only saving it for them so they'll be okay. That's certainly part of it. But the bigger story is they're saving it to help others. They're saving it. Just think about it. When you're young, you get, when you first get out of high school or college or a trade school and you have to start providing for yourself, you want to make sure that you can provide for yourself and not be a burden on somebody else,
Right.
not on the government or on anybody else. So you start there, and then you get married, and then you want to provide for, your spouse, and then you have children and you want to provide for those children. And then as time goes on, it expands. And, I think about it on the money side of the equation. I always say, you know what? Some people think that, money is bad, and it can be. It certainly can be. If you love it too much, it can be bad. But if you think about it, first of all, if you earn it honorably and you think about its good use.
Right.
And you have to be a steward all the way along. And, as you're raising your kids, you just buy them a bunch of junk and, fill their heads with, or, are you raising your kids to be good stewards as well along this path of life? And, in my first book, The Generations, I talk about, with my father. I mean, I look at him and my father-in-law, Pinky, and I say, they just lived and I watched. And I saw what a family steward is.
Powerful.
And I think about that, of all of us out here that are parents, as to what we teach our children. And it's not just a matter of telling them, it's how you live. You walk your talk.
Right.
And so you raise them in that way, and you're raising family, you're raising new stewards. And I love the word steward. And it, you can go back even biblically to the, being a good steward, or, the 3 bags of money, or the 10 bags of money, and, all this sort of stuff. And what did you do with it?
Right.
And some people expand it, and some people live in fear and hide it. And, and so there's a lot of things I just weaved into this, Jim. So
no problem.
I did take off a little bit, but it's a great term, family steward. It's the kind of niche client or people that we tend to work with. And if you're not a family steward, but you'd like to be one, it's a marvelous place. It's a marvelous way to live.
Very good. And thank you for going into the detail, because seeing the example that you shared about what you observed, not just what you were taught, but what you observed and learned from those who set the example before you, was terrific. I do want to just make a quick reminder to everybody that Marcus offered to give a copy of his book to the most actively involved person on today's book launch broadcast. And so in that process, if you want to ask questions or chime in on the chat or pop things in, please be engaged, because there will be a copy of the book waiting for you as we get to the end of this broadcast. I really like the idea of looking at breaking down your book into components, and the kind of components that we understand. For example, if you're thinking from the sports analogy, what's your pre-game preparation? Right? Some people go into the financial realm and their pregame preparation is, I'll get to it later, right? They kind of dismiss it or set it aside. But once you get in the game, once you're earning your own income and trying to figure out, well, what do I do? How much do I save or not? Or do I just accumulate wealth? What's the process? The challenge becomes, in the midst of that first half, what am I doing? And I don't always know or have the right answers. And sometimes people defer asking questions, but when it comes to halftime, I really like the way you set that up, because halftime could be a variety of ages, as you mentioned earlier. Halftime is a time when people stop and go, okay, now what do I do from here on out? My question to you was, when people enter halftime, do you find people who are completely challenged by the fact that maybe I am not going to make it, or I'm struggling, or what are some of the reasons why halftime is an important time, and what can people do if they feel like they haven't really gotten to where they think they ultimately should be?
Yes. The problem with the first half, to reflect on a little bit, is a lot of time, we procrastinate. I mean, procrastination is just a very common element. And, if I talk to young people now and I say, well, you know what, you're done with trade school, college, whatever, you have a job, you're earning money, are you putting some money in your 401k? and and then a month turns into a year, turns into 5 years, and they may have put a little bit in, they didn't put anything in, and then all of a sudden, they're saying, "Wow, I can't believe how fast this time has gone by. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I haven't really saved any money." That might not be halftime. It might be the first quarter. However, the careful thing I'd like to, I tell people is you need to get used to living on less than you make. And I know in the world right now, and if we're talking about, current events, with inflation and the cost of everything and just trying to make ends meet, I know that there's certainly some difficulty with that. But, so a lot of times, if somebody does come in, let's say it is halftime, they've saved some money, maybe they haven't invested it properly, maybe they haven't invested it at all, maybe it's just sitting in cash, maybe it's in something it shouldn't be in, or maybe they can put more in, but they haven't because they just haven't. So that halftime, that is, I would consider if somebody just comes in to a financial advisor and they come in and see us and it's their halftime, what an excellent time to start to say, all right, we gotta put something in place here to at least show you what direction you're going. And we're always looking into the future. So, when we do run our Monte Carlo planning, I mean, we're planning way ahead. And so let's say they're 50 and they want to retire at, let's just say it's 65, and we have 15 years ahead, and we can show them at their current pace. And let's call it halftime. You've played the first half. Let's see how you've done, and let's see where you're going if you stay on this track into the second half. And, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it isn't. As a matter of fact, in the book, it isn't. When you see the study or the case I'm showing you in the book, it isn't going to work. And so we have to go now and make some adjustments. I mean, what a great coach, we have the final, the March Madness is on us here, and we're going to see how coaches. Isn't it amazing, though? You could actually take this from the halftime and go to when there's 2 minutes left. It seems like when there's 2 minutes left, boy, good coaches really got something. And not that we want our clients to go to the 2 minute mark, right. That might not work. But the halftime adjustments, it's such but you have to be willing to start the halftime adjustment. Right. Sometimes people go through their entire life, they don't stop. They just go all the way through and woulda, shoulda, coulda, get to the end. And this is, you're either going to have to work now this much longer, or this is what it is. And, some of the statistics are bad. I mean, if you look at a lot of people or the population that's 65 or older right now, and some of the statistics, and I might be wrong on this, but some are that I've read in years past, is half of all people are living on Social Security, and that's it, or they have to continue working.
Right.
And so, boy, with the opportunities that we have in this country, and if you can view life as an optimist, and you can spend less than you make, and you can invest. I mean, where else? I mean, just think about the great just historically, you can invest in great companies, participate in all that growth, and that wealth factor can be in your portfolio, and have you or send you into a little different retirement mode that might help you to get, instead of off question one, will we be okay, to actually live the life you want to live, or even maybe more importantly, to be able to help others.
Right. It's moving beyond yourself. I like the way you identify the first chapter and halftime, the part 3, where winners make halftime adjustments. But as you mentioned just a moment ago, the importance is, first of all, identify where you are. And you mentioned this earlier a little bit about, you have to really understand why you want to do something before you can get to the how. And so if we're going to make that shift in that adjustment, it becomes an important strategy to really get to the heart of somebody. Because as you mentioned, in accumulating wealth, it's not always just about accumulating wealth. It's like, as you just kind of set it up, the entree to what about helping others? What about having resources to give and impact lives in a way that serves your heart, and not just using your finances for your self gain only, or even for just your family. So, and talk a little bit about that, kind of the bigger picture mindset of what does it mean to be really thinking about beyond yourself and understanding the importance of the legacy side of accumulating wealth.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because it might be a matter of this. I just want to answer the first question, will I be all right? And then I'm going to take my time, my hands, my energy, and I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to take everything else I have and donate it to charity. And it might not be money, it's time. I mean, time could be worth much more than money. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Some people view the world in such a way. Others might say, well, I want to have enough money to help other people with money. It doesn't have to be money. And you brought up something that's also really, I think, important, because we have our minds and we have our hearts, right? And, I think about this quite a bit, and I ask almost every day that I want a pure heart. I know my mind's going to, drift a little bit here, there, might do something that isn't quite the way I want it to be. But if I have a pure heart, or you have a pure heart, that's going to do volumes more. And I'll go back to the value problem, and talking about, I said earlier that I think it's so important that we set up our core values at the beginning of everything. Right. And I have 12 in mine, and I have 3 big rocks, and the rest are very important, but I have these 3 big rocks. And I think that because of our mind and our mind wanders, our heart is solid. That's the way I look at it. And if I need these values written down, laminated, I carry them around. I remember them, so I don't have to carry them so more. But I fall off track. We all fall off track. That's where it's human nature. I mean, we do. And it could be with your financial planning. It could be on a life issue. It could be on a number of different things. I happen to have my 5th item of 12 was to become financially independent. That was number 5, so, and you'll see mine. They're in the book, page 28 and 29. They're published here.
Excellent.
And mine aren't yours. You have to quietly do this, and they have to be so true. I wrote these 30 years ago. Not one of them's changed. They don't change. It's like a constitution. They don't change if it's done right. And so you can see how that connects into this. And we do planning and do life planning and the numbers and everything that goes into it. It's all interconnected. And if it's done right, it's done right with your heart. A pure heart. I don't think you can beat a pure heart. I mean, just watch, think of people that have pure hearts. Oh my gosh, they're beautiful.
Absolutely.
Their minds they might, but if they have their core values in here, they now have a constitution to always go back to.
What a tremendous experience, because the reality of it is most of us are bombarded by distractions, whether it be social, whether it be pressure, whether it be financial, whether it be concerns of the world or the economy. There's lots of things pressing in to try to steal some of our mind. So having our heart right, and then having the idea of living outside of ourselves. I like the idea, because even in the championship, even finishing well, when we talk about running the race laid out before us, and we want to finish well, and I want to have a championship season, but it doesn't mean that I get a trophy. It means that I hand off a legacy financially, personally, that when your heart is right, things fall into place in an entirely different way. So as we come down, I can't believe we got 6 minutes left. Mm-hmm. Time's flying when you're having fun. I do want to give you an opportunity to say, listen, if you were to identify what's the one thing or maybe 2 that you wanted someone reading this book to really take away from it, what would that be?
Well, I'll tell you what, I have to come back to these core values because, you know what, it's a foundation, and that foundation needs to be built. I give you an example in the book. I think that it could take, you have to go someplace quiet. It could take an hour. It could take a day, a week, a month. Doesn't matter. Just you need to do it. I think the other thing is that even though you might feel that maybe you feel your situation's a disaster. But maybe you're only in the first quarter or second quarter. And, I think you want to get to a halftime, and maybe halftime means that you need to make a call to a financial advisor. And if it does, some people don't want to do it. They think it's going to cost too much. They don't want to, because it's an investment of time. I mean, if you're going to go sit with an advisor, because what I tell all people that come in here, I said, I want you to talk to at least 3 advisors. You have to see what suits you best. And then the other thing I would say in that process, I'm digressing here a little bit, because I'll get this question, well, how do you pick an advisor? How do you find one? Well, it's easy to find one. You can Google, you can find all kinds of names. But look for 3 things. And these are the 3 big rocks. You can feel, the jar and the rocks, the sand, the water, and all that. Let's just say the 3 big rocks. One, you want to find somebody that you can trust, and you have to make you have to use, your own discernment there to say, well, I got to trust somebody. 2, you want somebody competent. And, obviously you go into the alphabet behind their name, certified financial planners, CMAs, MBAs, all that sort of stuff. And sometimes they could have that and still not be competent. I don't want to say that, but it's just not 100%. And then third is you want to get into a relationship you enjoy, because quite frankly, if you have a really good financial advisor, they're going to spend their life with you. And you want them to spend their life with you, because they're going to help guide you all the way through 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, that 4th one, you want to be able to answer, yes, I'm all set and I'm ready to go see the Lord. I mean, that's perfect.
Right. Excellent. Great. I love those 3 components, because the trust factor, someone competent, but that relationship, most people are, especially if they've had a challenge or they've struggled, they get locked into entering a relationship because they're embarrassed that they haven't done enough and they're struggling. But that's why life's a people business. You got to find somebody that you can enjoy, who's willing to work with you, and you can become vulnerable and build that trust factor with someone that you have a good relationship with. So very exciting time. I wonder, as we come down here with just 3 minutes left, can we have any feedback on anybody who's the most engaged who might win a copy of Mark's book today? We'll see. I'll see if I get an announcement up on that in just a moment. But it's been a real privilege for me to be with you here today on this global book launch for the Financial 4, because the reality of it is everybody has this as part of their life fabric. You're dealing with finances, and whether you want to be a family steward, and thank you for taking the time to describe what that is for us today, because often we, in that process, would not really understand what questions I need to ask or how I need to move. And if I really figure out that I have a responsibility, and it's not a burden, it's just a responsibility to finish well and to do that along the way. Looks like Gaelic is going to be our most engaged winner here today, which is awesome. I know you know who that is. Mm-hmm. And so we'll get a note that she's going to be the winner of a copy of your book. And I know that you'll sign that for her process-wise. Yes. Any final comments that you want to share with our listeners today, or those who might even pick this up later today to listen to this broadcast?
You know what? I know you. This is a privilege. It is an honor. I think about life in such a way where every day is a gift, And, no matter where you are in your travels and in your mission of life, I'm talking about the financial side of things here, but there's other things too. And I would obviously welcome anybody that would have any questions of any sort. You can certainly find us at my website or email us. And, we would be glad to answer any type of question you have. Don't procrastinate, get started. If it's halftime, first quarter, don't worry. You find some competent, trustworthy, fun to be with people who will help you through the entire process.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Mark. Mark Aho, The Financial Four, the plan for living abundantly, giving outrageously, and winning in the game of wealth. You can go to Amazon, pick up his book. And by the way, if you do get his book there, I also encourage you to please write a review to start building up some momentum for this very timely and important topic for everybody in the fabric of our lives as we move forward. Mark, thank you for your time today, and congratulations on a great accomplishment. I look forward to I have this book on Kindle. I'm working through it right now. I look forward to finishing it, and it's been a real privilege to be with you here today.
Thank you so much, Jim. God bless you.
Same. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.